His earliest inspiration was when he was growing up in Andale, Kansas, and their house was a block away from the church. And as a little boy, he was, little tiny boy, and he would look up at that huge steeple, and it was just majestic. And this church, this steeple, he was fascinated with it. So while all the other kids were playing ball, or they were, wagons, back then, the rudimentary toys that they had, Dad was trying to recreate this church with anything he could get his hands on. He would use mud. He would use sticks. He would, and they had some blocks. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had blocks. And his whole thing was trying to build this church steeple, even at the young age of like 4 and 5 and 6. And then the story that we love to tell is when I first realized it was one day I was at his house, and my parents were divorced, and Dad had us for the weekend, and I said, Daddy, will you build, I was like 6 years old, I said, will you build me a dollhouse? And he said, sure. So we walked down to the grocery store and we bought a Libby's cardboard box that held a bunch of Libby's green beans. Took it home, and Dad started building me this dollhouse. And 3 years later, it was the pink church that, you'll see. And I never got to play with it because it turned into this ornate and fancy church, and I never got to play with it. It was not a dollhouse at all. And that's when I realized, and then his kitchen, we never could eat in his kitchen because it was full of plaster and hammers and chisels and stuff. I mean, laden with plaster everywhere. But I just think somewhere he just decided, the creative juices in him, he just said, I can't just build a dollhouse. I have to build a church. His skills were totally God-given and God-inspired. I know that Cathedral of Reims, he was inspired because he saw it. The others, I think he just went to the library. There were no computers back then. He didn't use any slide rules. He didn't use a calculator. He would go to the library and spend days and days and weeks and months, literally months. I think a couple of the churches he spent years studying before he started building them. Dad's advice and long father-daughter talks to me were always Christian-based, God-based, religious-based. He influenced me more than anybody, just in day-to-day life, and it wouldn't sound weird or creepy or overzealous. It just came so natural coming from Dad. If somebody else would have talked to me like that, I would have thought, okay, now just tell me, how should I handle a fight with my friend? But Dad's approach was always so God-based but the way he put it was just, oh yeah, okay. And that's just the way he always spoke. Dad showed his churches in 2010 in front of 100 architects from around the area, and the term given to him by Sid Platt was architectural savant. They couldn't figure it out. I mean, they are so used to using the CAD system and this, and they could not believe that this man did it, figuring everything out on a piece of paper and a pencil with a ruler. He always wanted to glorify God. Everything he did in his life was to glorify God.